was a man named Hatma Gandhi. He would not bow down, he would not fight. He knew the deal was down and dirty, and nothing wrong could make it right away. But he knew his duty and the price he had to pay. Just another holy man who tried to be a friend. My God, they killed him. Welcome to Songs of Experience, a Bob Dylan podcast where we explore the man and the music one song at a time. I'm your host, Henry Bernstein, and I am very honored and a little starstruck to have someone I have been following and reading for 20 years. Please join me in welcoming the host of the Boston Herald podcast and author of Friends and Other Strangers, Bob Dylan Examined, Harold Lepidus, here to talk about the deep cut from 1986's Knocked Out Loaded, They Killed Him. Hello, Harold.
Hi, thanks for having me, and thanks for getting my name pronounced correctly. Appreciate it.
Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
I
Yeah.
meant before we came online, I meant to ask you the correct pronunciation. Then it was coming up in my script, and I'm like, I panicked. So I'm glad I got that
Yeah,
right.
you got it right.
Excellent. Yeah, like I said, I'm a little starstruck right now. When I first became a Bob Dylan fan in like 2001 or so, and I discovered Expecting Rain, I would often see your name on there. And then, from sort of 2009 on, the Dylan Examiner was like my go-to resource. And then I think like you were one of my first Twitter follows when I joined Twitter. So thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I've seen you and I've heard you and been virtual friends for a while, so it's nice to actually sort of virtually meet you in person, sort of.
Yeah, and well, we'll do it for real in Tulsa, which is very
Yeah, I'm looking
exciting.
forward to it.
I know you've probably answered the question on the Dylan Taunts with our mutual beloved friend Aaron Callahan, but tell us, what is your Bob Dylan origin story?
Well, I'm old. And when I was 5 years old, it was around the time the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. So I became a Beatles fan and a Monkees fan. Then when I was about 10 years old, I got a transistor radio, 1969. I started an allowance and a, stereo. And I'd buy a lot of albums and singles and listen to top 40 radio in New York. I was from Long Island. And it was mind blowing all the music. There was, there's all, the Rolling Stones and Creedence and Sly and the Family Stone, Temptations, Johnny Cash, Glenn Campbell, Jackie DeShannon, just all over the place. And it was all the same thing. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there are two legends that were on AM radio, and I didn't get it. One was Elvis Presley's "In the Ghetto,"
Okay.
and because I thought, you look at a picture from Jailhouse Rock, and you look at that, listen, it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And the other one was Bob Dylan, "Lay Lady Lay," which also you look at the blonde on blonde cover, and you go, what is going on? And
Right.
again, back in those days, there's very little ways to get information. I said I was only like 10 years old. I had a friend when we were very little. We were next door neighbors, but the families kept in touch. His name was Danny. He had an au pair staying with him with his family, and when she left a mono copy of Bring It All Back Home, and
Hmm.
he became obsessed with Dylan. And I just thought, this guy, I don't get it. He just seems so weird,
Yeah.
Then in 1971, for my birthday and slash bar mitzvah, his parents got me Grace Hits Volume 2. Yeah, I was very happy to get it. I was waiting for the Concert for Bangladesh album at the time.
And then it was fairly new at that point,
It
right?
was
Like
brand new,
those,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and it was almost like a Beatles album. The Beatles were my favorites, and because they had like four different voices on side one and four
Right.
different styles of music. And I just would buy Bangladesh. I bought Pat Garrett. I bought the Dylan album, the one called Dylan with, Lily of the West on it. And my friend Danny, I would, the previous 2 years we saw for my birthday, Grand Funk with Freddie King. And then the next year, Emerson, Lake and Palmer with Stray Dog. And so he and his friend Steve Kessler, they were big Dylan fans, and Steve's older sister Sharon somehow got a bunch of tickets. There was a mail order lottery, and somehow she and I guess her boyfriend, they were in the front seat, and me and Danny and Steve were in the back seat, and we got seats way in the back, and I was so excited because I knew it was like I wanted to go, but I couldn't tell my parents, there's this guy I don't know really anything about. I really want to go to this
Yeah.
concert. But he got it, and I was just, um, it just blew my mind. It was like whatever, limitations I knew about music, they just all fell down, and just like it just opened all these possibilities on so many levels. And that was kind of on a superficial level. And so there was that. There was the Rolling Thunder review played on my Madison Square Garden on my birthday. The previous Sunday, there's an ad in the New York Times, Arts and Leisure saying Rolling Thunder Night of the Hurricane. So I asked my parents, can I skip school and take the Long Island Railroad to Penn Station to buy tickets? Because it's the only place you can get tickets. And so we got there, I got there like at 9:45, and I guess they put this, this is before the internet, so I don't know what really happened, but I heard they put tickets on sale because there's a line like at 1 in the morning. Anyway, so I got there and I just got like two seats, last row on the side, which was very happy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was ended up going with my sister because no one else could go. And but we couldn't stay to the very end because if we didn't, we'd have to like take a 3:30 in the morning train.
Oh my
So right
God.
along Hurricane, my sister's like, we gotta go, we gotta go. And I taped the show, and the tape of with all the other acts, that's the thing that was in circulation.
That
And
was your tape?
yeah.
Oh my God, I've probably listened to that a million times.
I
Wow.
mean, if you have Wolfgang's Vault, you can watch
Yeah,
soundboard. But at the
of
time,
course.
so anyway, that's basically the beginning. I can go on for next
So
50 years.
let's, I don't want to bury the lead here, and I'm not sure
Okay.
which one is, but your first Bob Dylan show was Tour 74 with the band at the
Yep.
Garden,
Yep. No,
and
no,
your
the Nassau Coliseum.
oh, Nassau.
Giant
Okay.
train. Yeah.
And then your second concert was the night of the hurricane, Rolling Thunder the Review at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
That's, I mean, if that doesn't make you hooked on Bob Dylan, what would?
Exactly. When the box of the 74 box set came out, I had 50 years of thinking about it, and I wrote like 5,500 words to
Yeah.
review, and just made all these. I remembered everything from the car ride and what we talked about and the Ali Frazier fight the night before and the binoculars and the tape, the just like everything, and it was just the before in school on the desktop, someone wrote someone started a conversation. I said, "Do you like Bob Dylan?" And they said, "Yeah, he's okay," or something. And then blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I'm writing all this stuff, and then it was going back and back and forth. So I remember like it was, I don't remember every Bob Dylan concert, but that one was pretty special.
Well, not jumping ahead, do you know how many you've seen?
Well, I stopped counting at 77. I mean, it's over
Okay.
100, but
Okay.
I was
Okay.
like 15 years ago, I think.
Amazing. I almost want to just like spend the whole time peppering you with questions about Tour 74 and the hurricane, but we have to get into They Killed Him. So I don't know a natural transition to to They Killed Him, but this song, of course, was written by Kris Kristofferson and released.
I have Coretta Scott King was at the night of the hurricane. There's the uh,
Okay, there's
yeah.
the connection. There's the connection. Great. Okay. She probably had better seats than you.
Yeah, she's on.
So this song was recorded for the album Knocked Out Loaded by Bob Dylan. There are three different recording places for Knocked Out Loaded, or four maybe, in New York, London, and two in LA. And for an 8-track album, the personnel included like over 30 musicians, which I'm not gonna read, but why they killed him, Harold. You could have talked about anything. You were at the night of the hurricane, but this is the what we're talking about here.
Well, I think one thing that I hope I'm contributing to the Bob Dylan dialogue is going to places where people don't normally go. I mean, I
There we
could talk
go.
about Hurricane or,
Sure.
11 Blue or whatever, but, other people have done that. And I don't want to dox anybody, but the recent thing where someone said, well, of course, They Killed Him is his worst song or something like that. And I said to myself, as I always say, it's not even best and worst. It's not a contest. It's not,
Right.
I had done some research on it before, but then I really dig down, and I found out a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And as you said, you were already familiar with the Johnny Cash version. I was not. And
Mhm.
Kurt Carney and Aaron are working on an '80s book, and they asked me to write a chapter. So I wrote about that era. They call it the unholy trilogy of Knocked Out Loaded, Down in the Groove, and Hearts of Fire soundtrack.
The three of you are sort of the unholy trinity of Bob Dylan in the 80s. So it's kind of perfect. It's weird because like when I was listening to the Johnny Cash version, I was like, this is amazing. This is a great Johnny Cash song. Same thing with Kris Kristofferson. And then I, was sort of thinking to myself, this would make a great Highwaymen song. I could almost hear the other two in there. And sure enough, they did perform this, maybe at Nassau Coliseum or something like that. Like there's a live concert And they did it, and it sounds perfect. And all three of those versions are just excellent. So this is like a little different, I think.
And also, it's something I just found in my research talking to you is that Kris Kristofferson played at a Live Aid in 1985.
Oh, okay. So Bob could have joined him with on
Right.
that one. What
Um,
is it about this song that, other than it just being off the beaten path, like is this? Do you like the song?
I learned to like it. I can't
Yeah.
say when I heard it the first time I said, this
Mhm.
is wonderful. But it's like songs like, The Ugliest Girl in the World. It's almost like I dare you to like this. I dare you. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm up for the challenge, I think. And then I figure out why he did it. It's best, yeah, as much as you can figure him out at all. I mean, I realize it could be way off, but something actually like more accurately, it's more how I can relate to the song and what connections I make, and then I can listen to it. So and like it.
Pretty obvious. The song isn't, there aren't many metaphors or allusions to what the song is about. It's like, basically focusing on three martyrs, so to speak, and just sort of commenting on it. Kris Kristofferson is just sort of musing on what the world did to these people. And so I had to say, you mentioned the personal aspect of it. I think the first time this song sort of became in my radar, and I'll be honest, I'm not a knocked out loaded defender. Obviously, Brownsville Girl is amazing. But I don't revisit this one, but I enjoyed the challenge. And when I was listening to Bob Dylan's version of this, I didn't hate it. I had a memory of like listening to Knocked Down Loaded and of course dismissing it in early days and then trying to revisit it, and this song wasn't even on my radar other than every time I've been on Pod Dylan, Rob would mention that we're never gonna do They Killed Him or something like that.
Actually,
But
I asked him right before the end. I asked him if he wanted to do it, but then the show ended, and he had me do there was the Pat Garrett copyright
yes,
thing, so we did that instead.
yeah,
But
great episode by the way.
thank you. But it is I think, I mean, to me, and again, this is just my observations. I think there are two main reasons why people don't like this, aside from the fact it's on Not That Loaded at all.
Mm,
And one is that the lyrics are very simple. Yeah, I don't know if the word trite applies, but there's nothing to them. They're obvious.
yeah,
And the other thing is the children's choir that I but then and for those listening at home, watching at home,
yeah,
um, the Johnny Cash version, it's exactly the same. It's
right.
like, and you wouldn't think twice about Johnny Cash. It doesn't sound out of place at all. It's just
No.
the fact that it's Bob Dylan and you have different criteria. So, I mean, that was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, and also I kept waiting for Bob Dylan to sing the line, "My God, they killed him." When Johnny delivers it, or Kris Kristofferson delivers it, and certainly when they're singing when Johnny and Kris Kristofferson and Willie are singing together in The Highwaymen, there's like this you're sort of waiting for it. There's like this meat to it. It's like hearing Johnny Cash's voice. My God, they killed him. It really is affecting. At least it was for me. And I kept waiting for I wanted to hear Bob say that, and then it's the backup singers, which are, technically very sound and lovely, but it just kind of didn't grab me the same way.
Well, you've been a Bob Dylan fan long enough that he never does what you want him to do.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's true. That's true.
But
How
also,
dare I?
but also, as far as wordplay goes, when there's the Jesus Christ version, then he goes, "My God, they killed him."
Yeah. Yeah.
Different take than on the other two
Right.
versions.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, you said the lyrics are sort of, trite, not trite, whatever. Anything on that first stanza that like really stands out to you other than putting it right in the first line, who it's about?
Well, as I was saying, what I was doing
Hmm.
yesterday and today, I was comparing the Johnny Cash lyrics, the Kris Kristofferson lyrics, and the Bob Dylan lyrics. And the first one, the Bob Dylan one, they spelled Mahatma Gandhi wrong.
Yeah.
Gandhi's wrong, spelled incorrectly every single time.
In the official BobDylan.com, it says Hatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I may have even read that
Yeah, yeah,
at the beginning.
and it says Mahatma later on when they repeat
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and there's Gandhi has an H in it.
Right.
I know it was before AI. They got this website,
I
right?
mean, you could, the Bob Dylan, we've talked about this on the show. I've talked about Pod Dylan many times with Rob. Like the BobDylan.com discrepancies and inconsistencies are just that you could do a whole podcast just deep diving that.
But so what I was comparing, there's a Johnny Cash official JohnnyCash.com lyrics and BobDylan.com lyrics. And then there's Chris Kristofferson, it's just nothing official.
Right.
But that one, the one I found was pretty, it was basically perfect. So Bob Dylan's version is based on Johnny Cash's version. Chris Christopherson's version that he released on his own came out around the same time, maybe just after Knocked Out Loaded. But it is with the children's choir, but it's also the lyric changes. Like at the end of the first verse, instead of saying whatever it says on the website, it says "Who tried to be a friend," and then both Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan say "Dare to be a friend."
Interesting. So, yeah, in the official lyrics, it says who tried to be a friend, but Bob actually sings who dared to be a friend.
Yeah, and
Uh,
which is what Johnny Cash said too.
so when Chris Christopherson released this, had he released this after Knocked Out Loaded? Was this did Bob's version come out first?
Into the marketplace. Yeah, I don't know which one was. I mean, I don't know what was recorded first. Or
Oh, so we've got like sort of a blowing in the wind, Mr. Tambourine Man situation going on here.
exactly the perfect analysis.
So finally, Bob got to release
The
someone
Holy
else's song
Trilogy, Blowing
first.
in the Wind, Mr.
Yeah.
Tambourine Man, they
They
killed him.
killed him. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. I always, first of all, I always thought this was a Bob Dylan song. I never looked too deeply into it. And then when I saw it was written by Chris Christopherson and recorded by him, I just assumed his came out first and I thought that, here's another good analogy for you. I thought that Bob had just released it shortly thereafter, similar to like Bob Dylan releasing The Boxer not that long after Paul Simon had recorded
Right.
it and covering Hallelujah in 1988. I thought it was one of those kind of things, but you're actually telling me he released it first.
Yeah, as I said, he released it first, but again, as I said, Chris Christopherson played a Live Aid in 1985, so that
85.
was
Okay.
before.
Okay.
So, and obviously they're friends since he was a janitor on Blonde on Blonde. So.
Right. Right. Do you happen to know if there was like the lore behind those three guys, Johnny, Chris Christopherson, and Bob, all recording it in relatively close time? Like, do you happen to know if they talked about it? If that was no?
Nothing like that. I mean, no one talks about this song. We're the first people ever to talk about
I think you're
it.
right.
Um, yeah, so I was shocked to find that Johnny Cash did an almost identical version, or Dylan was based on his. I don't
Yeah.
know. But also, I used to work in a record store, say around this time. So, and here's an exclusive: the date of the release date that they have on Everywhere, which is somewhere in the middle of whatever month it came out.
July, they say July 14th, 1986.
Yeah, it's the week before because I worked in a record store, and in those days, whatever that Tuesday was, um, CD production was often behind, so they would release the LP and the cassette, and the CD is when they had enough to put it out. So it was the Tuesday before I saw him that week, so I know because I bought it and I said. I'm going to listen to this so I know all the songs. When I go see him and he does them all, I will be familiar with him. I didn't know that he did Got My Mind Made Up on the first show and the first of Brownsville Girl on the last show of the tour, and that was it.
He didn't play much from Knocked Out
And
Loaded. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. Okay, so first of all, you need to go into the Wikipedia and change that then. That's on you. I guess CDs were fairly new in
Yeah, yeah,
1986,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Um,
when I worked in a record store in the suburbs in 1984, and people kept on coming in and asking for these things called compact discs. And I'm telling my boss, like, whatever they are, people want them. And then finally, we got two by mistake, and one was Sting's "Dream of the Blue Turtles," and one was something else. And I remember this woman with auburn hair came in and said, "Do you have any compact discs?" I said, "Yeah, it's in a glass case." I said, "Yep, this is our CD section." He said, "I'll take this thing one." And then I called my boss, like, "We sold half our inventory. We got to get going on it."
Sold out for inventory. That's amazing. Well, so in 1986, were you going to see Bob Dylan and listen to the album in preparation for that. So what is your relationship to Knocked Out Loaded in general?
Um,
Like, did you stick with Bob all those years, have it since 74? And just whatever he was putting out, you were gonna try it?
No, so so I had my record collection was this big,
Hmm.
whatever, in high school, and I kept my Beatles and solo Beatles together. So Dylan
Okay.
was in the middle. So I just go, do you want to hear something like Blonde on Blonde or something not as good as Blonde on Blonde? So I was listening to Dylan like all the time. I
Yeah.
didn't have that big collection. Then I saw the Street Legal tour,
Oh God.
and which I now think is awesome. But at the time, I went. I ended up buying 16 tickets for because I think, or was it 8 tickets or I don't remember. Anyways, a lot of tickets. No, I think it was, yeah, I bought the maximum. I reserved maximum at this place I was in college in Massachusetts. So Harvard Square, you can leave a deposit.
Mhm.
But when they went on sale, I didn't trust it. So I went on to Ticketron and got 8 tickets, which were on the floor, and then got 8 more tickets in the balcony somewhere. And whatever, not the balcony, the whatever you
Were
call it.
people like hyped? Was this a big tour,
And
like in the zeitgeist? Like were people like, yes, street legal tour, whatever?
I don't think so. I mean, I think well, this is my own little world because a lot of these
Yeah.
people, actually, I ended up getting t one of the tickets. My sister was friends with Seth Rogovoy, so he
Mhm.
got one of the tickets, not in front. I didn't know him that well yet.
You gave
Um,
him one of the balcony ones.
yeah,
What was the venue?
it was the Boston Garden where the
Oh,
sound was horrible and
yeah.
it was just terrible. And with that band, but I think it was more like you heard things through the grapevine that really he's doing this kind of big band show and rearranging stuff and it's like, well, you're just bracing yourself. And it was exactly what they said. It was just like you could like you couldn't believe it because at the time, we know more about Bob now, but at the time it
Right,
just seemed the antithesis of everything he stood for.
right,
It's
right.
just like showbiz and um, you know,
The Neil Diamond
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of
Yeah,
style.
but also my theory is that uh there's a big Elvis Presley
Right.
because he died the year before and he had a couple of members of Elvis's band with him and so on.
Do you think he was sort of, in a way, kind of doing a tribute to that Elvis
Yeah,
Vegas
again,
thing?
yeah, I mean, again, I don't know, but it
That's your
just,
theory.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. That's great. So at the time, were you disappointed by the street
Yeah,
legal tour?
everyone was
Yeah.
disappointed.
Okay.
Yeah, I have
Okay.
friends of mine from Italy there seeing Dylan for the first time. It's just like
Oh my God.
everyone was, oh my God. And I didn't particularly like Street Legal at the time.
Mm.
Um, which is
If you say that now, that's blasphemous. Yeah.
I know.
Careful.
Then around the college is when he went gospel, and I didn't get that. I mean, I understood it. I understand. You say it's like the Beatles needed another guru, and the Pete Townsend and Mayor Baba, and it's
Yeah.
not a lot of these musicians. Realize people think they're God.
Right.
To really find who is God, kind of
Right.
thing. And I watched them on Saturday Night Live, and it's like, but then the punk and new wave was happening too, and like the Rolling Stones and the Kinks were going along with what was going on, and their records were really popular. And the
Bob
Dylan,
just wasn't doing that.
he wasn't doing it. Like
Yeah.
only he and the Who, really, with Who Are You, were the only ones who just stayed where they were going for a
Right.
while.
Right.
As I said in Tulsa, he didn't wear his skinny ties till 1984.
Well, can I actually ask you about the gospel period? I've wondered this for a while. So I've mentioned on the show a few times that like my own personal feeling, as a nice Jewish boy from the Midwest, is that like, I took in Dylan in 2000. So like I took it all in. Nothing
Right,
offended me. Nothing was
right,
bad. It was just
right.
I needed all of it. But I could imagine myself at that time I imagine I might have been very hurt by that period of time and that turn for him. As a nice Jewish boy from the East Coast, Harold, what was that experience for like you and your friends and your family? And like was that a thing or
Well,
was
my
it just
friends and my family don't care.
okay, all right, fine.
But it's just I'm in my own world. Yeah, yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it was just sort of baffling. On one hand, it was baffling. The other hand was this is only going to last 3 years, like everything else. He doesn't do anything for more than 3 years.
Even then it was like,
It
don't
just seemed like,
worry, it's
okay.
fine.
So actually, getting back to what we were saying before, and it all ties in, was that so in England, so after John Lennon was shot, the next year I spent 6 months in London.
Mhm.
And when I first got there, the second edition of Song and Dance Man, Art of Bob Dylan by Michael Gray was there. I didn't really know who he was or anything. But this, I don't know if you've ever seen the second edition, but it's like nice and shiny. It's small with a lot of glossy pictures. And I said, this looks good. That's what opened up everything. Because I said, up to that, he has cool words and he does this and he does that. But that when I found out, well, this comes from the blues and this comes from this literature and this is the poem, and it's like, oh, that's, or this, this means something in a way that I hadn't thought about it. And my initial thing was my tastes were the same as Michael Gray's tastes until I developed my own opinions about stuff.
Mm.
But basically, what it did was it opened my mind to what Bob Dylan was doing on everything, Knocked Out Load and everything else. But also, one of the thing is that it's like the Bruce Springsteen thing when he inducted Dylan into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He said, Elvis, the way you freed your body, Dylan freed your mind. I got that
Hmm. Hmm.
right.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. And one of the things that I tend to write about a lot or discuss is the fact that a lot of Bob Dylan fans aren't open-minded. It's like,
Oh God, yeah.
I know.
There's
It just seems it's like it's like Bob Dylan 101. It's like open
right,
your mind to things. You don't have to like it. Like
right.
one of my crusades is Dylan and the Dead. It's like I think it's one of the most important things he ever did. You don't have to like the music, but saying it was a mistake like Clinton Helen did is just ridiculous because
Oh,
it's like,
it's absurd. He manifested his dream of joining his favorite band, basically. Like it's incredible. Yeah.
and he found people weirder than he was.
Right. Right. I know. Well, I mean, this has been, I mean, Harold, I can definitely relate to you on this. This has been a crusade of mine in especially, it always comes up when we see him live and like this whole spring tour into Outlaw, just dealing with all the people like I didn't hear anything from the 60s. Like all the bingo card of I can't understand anything he's saying,
And say,
like
well, actually, he did. You just didn't recognize it.
right. There was we were in April, one of those Midwest shows. I think it was in Green. Yeah, it was in Green Bay. And I was walking to the bathroom after the show, and this woman behind me was going on and on about that. I didn't recognize any of those songs, and he didn't play anything from the '60s, and I just couldn't take it anymore. And I turned around and like with incredible chutzpah said to her, I'm sorry. I'll be your baby tonight. It ain't me, babe. It's all over now. Baby Blue and Desolation Row aren't 60s enough for you. And she was like stunned. It was like someone had dumped a bucket of water on her. She couldn't believe this person said this to her. And I just like turned and left. I couldn't.
Right.
That was like my breaking point. But anyway.
Yeah, yep, yep. It's usually that's a comment on Facebook or something, but
Right,
you
right.
do it face to face. That's really cool.
I could, yeah, I had to. I couldn't take it. So,
But
yeah. So anyway, so you were saying about like leading up to seeing, well, you were talking about the gospel period,
right.
how you
So
felt, how that felt for you.
and I remember I think Joan Baez said the songs were horrible too at the time. And it's like, well, I guess, like I didn't, but I didn't want to be like the guy yelling Judas. You know what I mean? I didn't want to
Right,
like, I don't know what's going on. Do
right.
you, Mr. Lapidus?
Did you see him during on the gospel
Oh, because
tour?
I didn't have a car and he didn't play anywhere easily
Uh,
accessible. Played in
uh,
Worcester, Massachusetts. It was not close. And then I went to England. He was an American. I went to America. He was playing in England, but it was sold out when I got there.
uh,
So I didn't. That was the '81 tour. But yeah, I didn't see it. So I said the Michael Gray stuff was the opening. That opened the door for understanding it, everything on a deeper level.
mhm.
And but also, do you remember? This is it's a 2000. It might be around the same time. There used to be a Bob Dylan tape trading thing
Yeah,
on Expecting Rain
yeah.
or
That's how I got my early bootlegs and
yeah, yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
So I got some stuff from there, and I'm it, like the songs that he didn't put on those gospel albums, or like and, oh, for anybody, those songs like that, those I thought these songs are awesome. I don't know if I would have liked them in 1979, but when I got them in 1999 or whatever, I thought, yeah,
yeah.
the,
Well,
the,
the Trouble No More bootleg is incredible. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's one of those treasures. It's like, not appreciating it then. I guess it makes sense, but it's so impactful and so beautiful and amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then afterwards, I say I listen to it now, and actually there was a time in the late 90s, or no, wait, the early 90s, when yeah, there's stuff, family stuff, getting tough. And I would listen to Slow Train Coming and All Things Must Pass a lot. Those are things to help you get through.
Mm,
And then of course, later, if you you don't know if you have Seth Rogovoy's book, Prophet, Mystic, Poet.
Yes, of course.
So he puts a lot of the things in a Jewish context,
Yeah.
like oh the saving grace,
Yeah.
and he's talking about it's the pine box, whatever. That's a Jewish, and all these
Right.
different Jewish things that are only a Jewish boy could write these Christian songs
Right.
like this.
Right.
And that was another connection. I mean, so
So it didn't like personally hurt you when that happened in 1979 as a Jewish person.
no,
Okay.
it's like I live on that live.
Right. Right.
But yeah, that's like I think Bob Dylan should do this. It's like no, no, no.
Of course. Of course.
He's pretty good at doing it himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did that take you, so from 80, let's say 83 or so, the end of that to 86, getting to Knocked Out Loaded, like where were you in terms of seeing Bob Dylan live and why when Knocked Out Loaded came around, were you like, let's go?
Well, he wasn't playing anywhere near me for most of that time. I did buy a triple album bootleg of some show, picking up from the Michael Gray. So I'm reading all this stuff, and I come back to America after being in England, and I'm buying albums I didn't have before. Like he said, Self Portrait has some good songs on it, and I just thought that album was a joke. That's all I ever heard about it. It looks like a joke. Grail Marcus. What is this shit? And
Yeah.
but I bought it and based on what Michael Gray said, and then I started buying just about every album that I didn't have. Plus, oh, this Searchers album has an unreleased song, and you go to used record stores, you get it for $2. And Eric Clapton's Backlist has some songs, and I just there was Paul Cable's book. Do you know what that is?
Mm.
It was like a bootleg kind of guide,
Oh, okay.
and
So it's like Grateful Dead, May 7th, 1977 at Boston Garden. Right.
right,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and so so I look in there and say, oh, this is where I think that's where I found that information out.
Mm.
Anyway, so a lot of used record stores in Boston. So just to go there and search through them, and sometimes I would just listen to the one Dylan song. But yeah, but just really getting into it in the 80s when he was out of favor.
Mhm.
And so again that was another crusade just in general. It's like yeah. So 1982 I started working in this record store in Boston, and it's a kind of punk rock based indie rock.
Mhm.
So I mean, I like that stuff, but I like the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and it's like people looked at me funny. I would be kind of defending Bob Dylan to anyone who cared. I just had this memory. Yeah, on the
Or
first,
didn't care.
right. So actually, on the first Halloween, worked in the store. He said you have to wear a costume of some sort. So I had a harmonica rack. I didn't shave. I had dark
Perfect.
curly hair. I had a denim jacket and a little button that said "I'm with the band."
Nice, nice.
I answered the phone and hit the harmonica
Do
thing.
you have a
Anyway,
picture of that somewhere in the
no, no,
archives?
no, no, no. Well, as things were going on, Infidels and even Empire Burlesque, which I didn't like the production
Ah.
on, but I like some of the songs a lot. Then when he toured in '86 with Tom Petty, he was still promoting that album instead
Mm.
of Knocked Out Loaded. But yeah, and again, it's not. I guess one thing I learned again is I don't judge him so much as like what are you doing? What is he doing, and how does that affect me and how I think? And because that's as I said, back in 1974, it just changed the way I think.
Hmm.
And it doesn't change my way I think too much anymore. It's been 40, 50 years, but he's I still of course I'm excited about what he does.
So wait, so that 86 show that was with
I
Tom
went
Petty.
to three of the Tom Petty shows.
So
Yeah.
three of the Tom Petty shows. So one of the obvious Bob, not obviously, Bob Dylan never played this song live. However, on one of the sound checks on those shows, he did. I think they sound checked it or rehearsed it, right? He and the band. So that's about as close as as they got to ever playing it live. I kind of think it's too bad. Like that would have been awesome with the Heartbreakers.
Yeah, and then the Queens of Rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Queens of Rhythm. Yeah. I mean, you had the Queens of Rhythm there to do imagine if the Heartbreakers, Mike Campbell and everyone came and Bent Montage came in on My God, They Killed Him with the Queens of Rhythm. I mean, that would have been incredible.
I mean so this is before your time, but actually if you're listening, I don't know if there's video of this, but how the show would end would be like I think whatever it was like Rolling Stone, one of his big hits. And then they would sit because one of the shows I had like a really close seat on the side. The lights would go down and they'd be sitting on stage smoking cigarettes. The show wasn't over. they wasn't really the encore, and then the lights came on and he did In the Garden. So and then they do a real encore. But
Wait, like all the Heartbreakers and Bob would be and Tom Petty would be sitting on the stage just chilling?
yeah,
Wow.
lights out.
Wow. Oh, they wouldn't go off stage for the
Right,
encore.
right, right. Yeah.
Oh,
And but then after that song, they went off stage and
yeah.
and they
Yeah.
did Knock on Heaven's Door or whatever.
Okay.
And Bob, I don't know, I'm sure your tape was really funny on some of those shows. I think
Yes.
saying before songs and stuff. There's an Andy Warhol book diary thing, and it said something like, first of all, they said, I guess Andy Warhol asked this guy, "Is Bob Dylan still Christian?" He goes, "No, he's studying Judaism. He won't even play on the Sabbath unless the money's really good." And then also he said, what was the other thing? Oh, so I guess there was backstage. He was with whoever his girlfriend was in the Queens of Rhythm, and they had a fight right before he went on stage and said, "Well,
Carolyn Dennis or whatever.
I don't know which way it could have
Yeah.
been. I don't know
Yeah.
which era it was, but
Oh,
it's like,
okay.
yeah, but it said, well, you just go on stage and do your Mr. Tambourine Man." And there was a tape of him go like, and then the solo acoustic set, he just goes, "I'm not going to do Mr. Tambourine Man. So sorry."
That's
So I don't know if that's the
amazing.
same show. Wouldn't be surprised if it was.
Oh, I will definitely go back and listen to those and find those. What do you remember?
I don't remember if it's one of the ones I went to or not.
Oh,
After
okay.
a blur, but
What was the venue that you saw them at? Was it?
twice at what was known as Great Woods in
Mm,
Mansfield.
mhm,
I think it's called it was the Tweeter Center, then it was
mm.
should have been the Monkey Man Center. And,
Yeah.
but now I think it's called the Xfinity Center. It's where I'm seeing the Outlaw.
Outlaw. Yeah,
Outlaw.
one of those big places.
Yeah, a shed. But she loved, I mean, if you have the t-shirt from that tour, there's a date in Mansfield that is on the t-shirt because he'd never been in a shed like that.
Right. He
So
added that one.
he just thanked it, like he just thanked whoever made the venue. He just thanked people at the end. He was just so happy at the time.
Wow.
Different to play outdoors. What was the question?
Well, I was just asking you about the lead up to seeing that tour with Petty, but uh when you did see those shows,
Oh
were
yeah,
you
two there and one in can't either Hartford or New Haven, whichever one was right after that. It
also like a big one of those big
was
amphitheater?
indoors.
Oh, indoors. Okay. Were you disappointed that there wasn't any knocked out loaded songs or
No, I hadn't seen him in forever. I was just happy
okay.
to see him. As I've been saying for 50 years, who knows how long these guys are going to be around?
Right. I know, right? And here we are, the Outlaw Tour, and Bob's not even the oldest guy. The headliner is the oldest guy on the tour. Yeah. Well, Harold, we don't know why, but why do you think? I have you, you're the journalist here on the podcast. Why do you think Bob Dylan decided to cover a song that hadn't been released by one of his buddies and this one? It's such an odd song. What do you think spoke to Bob Dylan about it?
I have a very, very definite theory,
Okay.
and it ties in with the children's chorus too. So on at the end of January, Desiree, his daughter, was born,
Hmm.
and then in the June or something, he married Carolyn Dennis.
Hmm.
And so when you think about it, he has a new daughter, and if you look at the this, it says
Is that knocked out loaded?
at the end of
Yeah, the back. Yeah.
said baby boo boo, and it says Desiree on there, and that's both for his daughter. And I just think this is for his daughter. That's all I can think of. And like the next time he said Gabby Goo Goo too.
Yeah.
So he was a father again. And I think it was like almost like a prayer or something, or for his daughter.
This particular song,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
wow, that's a pretty intense prayer for a little
And a
baby.
prayer is the right word, but like a
Yeah,
lesson.
a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't, bringing in these other people with Jesus. I could see this song, They Killed Him, as one of his originals in the gospel period, just about Jesus. But, maybe, maybe like that being the last verse, and we're after that period, but there's a lot of that gospel period still left in Dylan at this point. Maybe that was important to him to sort of include that as a stamp on that period. I don't know.
Music and literature and poetry and fiction and reality and making heroes out of these horrible people and
Hmm.
you just it's all a mishmash. It's like a Cuisinart, just like
Right.
anything in his life, he mixes it all up, and that's what he does.
Makes a robot commando. Right. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you something about the next verse. Another man from Atlanta, Georgia, by name of Martin Luther King. He shook the land like the rolling thunder and made the bells of freedom ring today with a dream of beauty that they could not burn away. Just another holy man who dared to make a stand. My God, they killed him.
Okay, so
So,
first of all, what he says is, even though that's the lyrics on the
sorry.
sheet,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
would not take away, not burn away, and that's what Johnny
Mm.
Cash says too.
So once again, there's a parallel there. He's following Johnny's
Yeah,
version exactly. The he shook the land like the rolling thunder.
I've
Any
heard that phrase, "rolling thunder." That sounds.
Yeah. So is there
I wouldn't be
anything
surprised if
there?
that's I mean, but who knows?
I mean, did Kris Kristofferson was he on one of those shows at some point? Did he walk on or join the group for?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Okay. Okay. Okay, wouldn't be surprised if he did. Okay, so maybe to your knowledge, there's nothing there. It's just a happy coincidence that
yeah,
Rolling
yeah,
Thunder is
yeah.
there. Okay, anything else about that particular stanza?
Well, he was with Martin Luther King on stage
That's
in
right.
in the March on Washington, and so
He
he's
he
very.
opened for Martin Luther King at the March on Washington. Yeah,
There is that connection, but obviously he didn't know Gandhi,
right.
he knew Martin Luther King Jr. and he knew Jesus.
Right. Yeah, he certainly did. And like you mentioned, Coretta Scott King was at Night of the Hurricane, which was
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Rolling Thunder, which
yeah,
this has this verse. So
yeah.
that's pretty incredible. I actually hadn't thought of that. And I did North Country Blues with Christopher Vanney, and we talked about, Bob at that period of time. And certainly talked about the March on Washington. For whatever reason, I didn't make that connection when I guess because it's so many years later, I'm thinking of Bob as 1986 Bob singing in that, sort of sterile 80s pop way. It just
Mm.
didn't make that connection. So that's a great reminder. Did Johnny Cash's version come before Bob Dylan?
In 2 years.
2 years before?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Before the release, I don't know when he recorded it, but in
okay.
1984, it was a B-side of a single in 1984.
So it goes
It was his
Kris
last thing.
Kristofferson writing it and performing it at Live Aid, Johnny Cash recording it and releasing it, Bob Dylan recording and released it, Kris Kristofferson recording and released it.
It's a very popular. It's up there with "Make You Feel My Love." It gets covered all over the place.
Isn't that a song that Adele wrote?
So is Billy Joel, but what.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Isn't that on his greatest hits, Billy Joel's greatest hits, volume three? Make you
His
feel my
version
love?
came out, I think, a week before Bob's.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did on Letterman. Did you ever see that clip on Letterman?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thoughts and prayers out to Billy Joel, of
I
course.
know. Yeah, there's a movie coming out. It's on HBO or something about him soon. So
Yeah, and I love that he called our mutual love, Howard Stern. He called Howard to like just let everyone know he's okay, like he's
yeah,
not
yeah,
dying.
yeah.
Yeah, just as a side, Harold, because I know you sometimes post stuff from Howard Stern, and I always comment on it because I'm a Howard listener. But one of the things I can't stand is when Howard goes on a rant about how he doesn't get Bob Dylan, he doesn't like Bob Dylan, and like now that Howard's playing guitar and he's like rediscovering, like John Prine and like all these other. I keep waiting for the day.
He used to put down like Bruce Springsteen.
I know,
He
and
made
now
fun
he
of
and
Paul
Bruce are
McCartney.
like, yeah,
It's like,
right. Now he and
I think if you're that famous, I guess it doesn't matter when you make fun of people. And,
right, right. That's true. That's true.
yeah,
But like, I remember there was this whole bit once he did with Gary because Gary was at old Cella, and he like played clips of Bob playing Tangled Up in Blue at that performance. And yes, that wasn't one of Bob's greatest performances, old Cella. But I was just like dying, like Howard, come on, how can you do this? I love Bob Dylan.
yeah. He could. He didn't like he didn't like psychiatry,
Right,
being
right.
therapy. He didn't like any. He doesn't like. He used to be the exact opposite. Did you see the Pee Wee Herman documentary?
I haven't yet. I really
Yeah.
want to.
There,
Yeah.
there's a clip of Howard with his hair down here. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the guy's not hardly even the same person.
No, oh, he's totally different. But it's funny. Like maybe my wife asked me because she knows I love Howard and Bob and love these intense. When there's a really good Howard interview, I'll make her listen to it. And she asked me, she's like, why hasn't Bob ever been interviewed by him? And like, that would just go so badly because, Howard loves the like linear, okay, you came to New York and then he wants to end at, so in 2020 during the pandemic, Rough and Rowdy Ways came and you said it all, Bob. You said it all. It just wouldn't work for Bob Dylan. It
No,
just,
no, no.
yeah.
No, 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 not even a little.
So going from Bob to Howard, now back to Jesus Christ. So the last
Three
standalone.
Jewish boys.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Thank you
Another
for
Holy Trinity.
all right. Thank you for
Tying it all
for
together.
dunking that alley-oop, Harold. I appreciate that. The only Son of God Almighty, the Holy One called Jesus Christ, he healed the lame and fed the hungry, and for his love they took his life away on the road to glory where the story never ends. Just the Holy Son of Man will never understand. My God, they killed him. Just I want to ask you about, lyric changes there, but there's a part by this point in the song, the three verses in, I'm kind of hooked now. I'm talking about the Dylan version, like when
Yeah.
the way he sings, "When the story never ends," like the way he like,
Well done, well done.
thanks. I went a little flat at the end there, but he sings. I think he sings a harmony there, which he does all the time for decades, and going all the way back to Song to Woody. He sings the harmony instead of singing the melody, and I think he does it here too. And that's where he just got me. I'm like, oh, this is such good Bob Dylan singing. And this was the moment where I was like, oh, I think I love this song.
Yeah.
So tell me about this last verse, Harold.
So again, just like Johnny Cash, I hope I'm getting this all right, but the original is healed the lame and fed the hungry, and he says he healed the sick,
Mm,
fed the lame. And he always says, I'll never understand instead of we'll never understand.
mm,
So
He in that moment, oh, right. The lyrics say, "We'll never understand," and "I'll
yeah,
never understand."
yeah. And
Interesting.
again, I believe, yeah, that's what Johnny Cash says too. So well, I guess he's saying that Johnny Cash will never understand, I guess
Right.
by the transitive theory.
Right. I mean, for Cash's gospel period never ended. Like
Right.
I think, that's one of the things I love Walk the Line.
I never saw it, but I know about it. Yeah.
You never saw it, really? Oh, okay. And that's a big one of its big criticisms is that's like a big part of the story that's not included is Johnny Cash's faith and
Hmm.
his, I mean, really deep faith going all the way back to childhood.
Right.
And as being
And
one of,
his struggle. I finally saw your t-shirt. Cool.
oh, thanks. I don't have any 80s Dylan t-shirts yet. As I like to say, yeah. I mean, you got it. But so 92 was the closest,
Yeah.
the fake 92. Yeah, so like I think like that's really important. Maybe that was really important for Johnny Cash to sing this verse. And then you were talking about a transitive property. Like I think for Bob Dylan, anything Johnny Cash does, Bob Dylan thinks is the greatest thing. I mean, going all the way back to the first time they met him, I think he just has such reverence for Johnny Cash, and rightly so.
Well, a couple of things. One,
Oh, uh-oh.
the type of him as a kid when he's kind of making fun of Johnny Cash, and but also when he said he didn't like those Rick Rubin recordings. He said that somewhere.
Really?
I know. He said if you want to hear the good stuff, hear like the Sun Sessions or
Wow.
something like that. And also the reason,
American Volume 4, whatever. Bob
yeah,
Dylan, not into it.
no.
I hurt myself today. Nothing. That's not for Bob.
And even the second one has Tom Petty on it. He still did. I mean,
Yeah.
he
Won't
didn't go
back
into he,
down.
he didn't go into detail. He just said the early stuff is what was really good. But also the reason he signed with Columbia is he wanted to start with a gospel album. That's why he signed to Columbia.
Cash did.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Oh, yeah, I'm still like reeling from the fact that Bob Dylan didn't like the Rick Rubin Johnny Cash albums.
If I had to guess, I think it's because it was Rick Rubin's version of what Johnny Cash should be, as opposed to Johnny Cash being himself. Again, I don't know what Bob is thinking. He never answers my phone calls, but I
Yet.
think that's what it is. I think he's not expressing himself, even though he really, I think he was. I mean, he just needed someone to push him in a certain direction because
Mhm.
he got all this advice to do this and that and the other thing, and he got
Mhm.
dropped by Columbia, at one point. So.
Yeah. The next few verses, it's just kind of a recap, and then it ends with all three guys. Were there any lyrical differences in those that you caught?
But the thing is, on Kris Kristofferson's version at the end, he was sing about Mahatma Gandhi, sing about Martin Luther King, sing of Jesus Christ Almighty, and the brothers Kennedy, who are, I guess he could have written another verse, I guess, but
Right.
obviously they're part of the Abraham, Martin, and John kind
John.
of.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Yes. I was
I just
thinking.
thought of it this second.
Oh, you did really? Okay. No, while I'm listening to the song the other day, I was picturing, the video of him singing that, at the piano, Abraham,
Hmm.
Martin, and John. And I was like, there is a connection here. This is the same, it's basically the same song
Right,
thematically,
right.
even structurally, like
Yeah,
just the three,
yeah.
but you just thought of it in the second. Okay.
Yeah,
Any like thoughts on the top of your head? Like, is there some
I forgot. I
intertextuality
forgot.
there?
I mean, I knew Bob liked that. I forgot there's a video of it. No, but that makes sense. It's like if he loves that song, this is Chris Christopherson's version of that song.
Hmm.
Bob's known to take other songs and rewrite his own songs occasionally too.
Hmm. Wow.
But yeah, I mean, but for him though, I mean, he was there. I mean, for all those assassinations and stuff he lived through. So
I think if you are taking this song in a vacuum, and maybe it's too hard to do that if you're someone who's listened to Bob Dylan for so many years, but I think if you're like a new-ish Bob Dylan listener, listening to this in a vacuum as like obviously pure 80s pop,
Mhm.
synthesized pop, but I think it's a really good song. I think it's a really good Bob Dylan song. I think his singing is fantastic on here. I think the production, even maybe it's overproduced, but I think the production's really crisp on this.
Chris Christopherson.
And you have Kris Kristofferson as the writer.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's like it's not badly written. I mean,
yeah.
we're talking about A Star Is Born here, like the Kris Kristofferson. So I don't know. I just wanted to kind of share my support and defense of this song.
No, it's we are in the minority, but that's okay. That's even better, really. You don't want to follow the crowd. You don't want to,
Yeah. Like Bob Dylan would
yeah,
have.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, it's weird because as I said earlier, it's not really a Bob Dylan type song on the surface,
Right.
but and we just connected it with all these other things that says, well, it's not that really out of place, especially when you compare it to the Johnny Cash version.
Right. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to say about They Killed Him or Knocked Out Loaded or Bob Dylan in general, Harold?
Um, yeah, well, one of the things I'm talking about at Tulsa will be about it's called Knocked Out Loaded Masterpiece. In
It's
quotes.
not Saturday morning at 9, is it?
Might be.
Okay.
Was that the last day?
No, Sunday is the last day.
I think I won the last day and won the next last day. Why
Okay.
are you doing
I'm
something?
Saturday at 9.
Uh,
So
I,
if you want to come see Harold and meet both of us come to the World of Bob Dylan in 2025 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Harold and I will both be there. So we're going to meet for the first time. So come. So, okay. So you're doing a knocked out loaded session.
right. And I said that because it was based on the way too long chapter that I gave to Aaron and Court. I forgot what they say. Whatever it says, like three times as long as they wanted. I just started
Oh my
writing. I didn't
God.
know it was going to go, and Anyway,
So
um,
anyway, yeah.
I have no idea what they did to it. I don't know if they edited it. Well, just a couple things about Knocked Out Loaded quickly.
Okay.
So when the album first came out, in USA Today, they said "Under Your Spell" is the best song. That was what
Mm.
they and the Tom Petty got my mind made up.
Hmm.
There's a version on the box set that they put out with outtakes.
Hmm.
It's just credited as Tom Petty. It's not a co-write by Bob Dylan. So Bob obviously rewrote it. But
Hmm.
according to an interview that I found, Tom Petty said, writing about Florida. And Tom Petty said, no, you write about Libya. That was his idea, according to Tom Petty.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. So
Does Brownsville Girl like save the album from, complete obscurity?
to those people who aren't as cool as us, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Brownsville Girl so in the Bob Dylan Center, they have you can listen to a recording of Woody Guthrie's Danville Girl, and
Hmm.
New Danville Girl was the original
Right.
version of Brownsville Girl. Sort of giving away all I'm going to write.
Yeah, you don't have to spoil, you don't have to break kayfabe here.
Okay,
And if you want to know what that
the
means, come to my session. But
the other thing is like again, with Carol Bear Sager co-wrote Under Your Spell. She thought she didn't even need a writing credit, and Bob Dick insisted, that she got at least a partial credit. And he rewrote "You Want to Ram, I Want to Ramble as You Want to Ramble," and he didn't take any writing credit. It's like who is this guy not taking credit for songs that he rewrote? He always takes the credit, even whether he should or not.
Right. Love and Theft, Rolling and Tumbling. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, so if you want to hear me go on, I only have 20 minutes in Tulsa,
Right.
but when Aaron and Court's book comes out, I'll have a lot to say.
Great. Awesome. All right. Well, before I let you go, Harold, I don't always do this, but I have an exit question for you.
Yeah, okay, good.
Another thing I got from my hero, Rob Kelly, but knowing what you know now and seeing what you've seen and having written what you've written and read what you read, your first concert was 1974. Could go if you could pick one of those concerts where you saw Bob Dylan over the last, however many years that is, 50 years, which one would it be? And it could be either because you want
I
to
actually think
appreciate
about
it
this.
different
Yeah.
or
Yeah, it might be the 78 one, just because, I mean, Dylan, the band was awesome. But as I read somewhere else, I mean, how many times can you lose your virginity? You know what I mean? It's like, it was awesome the first time, and I'm sure it'll be awesome again, but I kind of know what it is. I mean, I appreciate it. And going to see the 78 tour again with new ears and,
knowing that Street Legal is,
is an
so
awesome album.
beloved. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's great. Awesome. Awesome. Great. Well, Harold, where can folks find you if they want to follow you or talk to you or, is there anything, you want to plug, please?
Well, yeah, I'm on, Facebook and Blue Sky and Instagram and Threads.
By the
And
way, I just have to say, Harold, like you're such a great Facebook follow because you post all those things from those different places on there. And for those of us who have left the bad place, you know, it's great to have that there. And being such a massive music fan, I so appreciate that it's not just Bob Dylan. Like always Beatles, always Bruce Springsteen. I mean, and of course today, as we're recording this on June 7th, Bruce Springsteen and Paul McCartney uh, played
Liverpool.
together, and you broke the news to me. So I just wanted to show my appreciation to you for all of the music content on
Yeah.
there.
That
And
comes back from
even you've supported Taylor Swift when other people have been crying about her, and I appreciate that as a Swiftie too. So thank you.
yeah, that's I'm very, maybe we can talk about Taylor Swift when we're in Tulsa because
Please.
yeah. Um the Yeah, so there's that. I also have we call it the Boston Herald
Mhm,
podcast. It's either
mhm.
interviews like this or written things like reviews of the box sets and things like that. And I guess that's all, that's where I am.
That's where you are. Great. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Harold.
Well, this was great. This was really fun. I really
Oh,
enjoyed it.
good. I'm glad.
So
I,
I knew it would be good because I've seen your other stuff, but
thank you.
I didn't know what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really appreciate you saying this. I was, actually nervous, but
Um,
you definitely put me at ease, and I love talking about Bob Dylan. So,
yes, I noticed. Me too. But yeah, so I'll see you in Tulsa, and it'll be awesome. We'll meet in person.
oh, I can't wait! I can't wait to shake your hand, take a selfie, get a hug, maybe. That would be great.
Cool. Thank
All
you
right,
very much. I appreciate it.
thanks, Harold. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Look for the next episode on the 15th day of the month in all of your podcast feeds. You can give me a follow on Blue Sky at Henry Bernstein. And if you're subscribing to Apple Podcasts, please take a moment to give us a rating and review. It's the best way to spread the word about the show. For a video version of this podcast, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Songs of Bob Dylan. You can, of course, email us at songsofbobdylan@gmail.com. Thank you to my friend and mentor, Rob Kelly, for designing our fabulous logo, and to my mandolin teacher, Mark Mitchell from the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago, for teaching me how to play the intro and the outro. If you'd like to help support the cost of hosting my podcasts, please go to patreon.com/gonzo3249. For $5, I'll show my gratitude by giving you a little shout out. So thank you to Rob Kelly, Roberta Rakove, Matt Simonson, and Christopher Vani. For $10, I'll also send you a piece of surprise Bob Dylan merch. So thank you to the girl from the North Country, Katie Sorovic. Speaking of merch, I have a store. Lots of fun stickers, shirts, hats, and other goodies for you to check out at etsy.com/Henry Podcast Store. Thank you to my Substack subscribers, Mark Godfrey, Linda Maltzby, George Pasella, and Peter White. You can check that out at henrybernstein.substack.com. Truly, I love you all. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.